And welcome back to the Ford Taylor Talks podcast. I'm Pat Williams with Ford Taylor, smiling as always. And we're so honored and humbled to be joined today by Tamra Andress. Tamra, thank you so much for jumping on with us today.
It's so fun. I always get really excited to have conversations like these, especially out the gate in the morning. So hopefully when people are listening, they get some energy from it. Ford brings it every time.
Well, you gotta realize something, Tamra. We just wouldn't put anybody on Ford's podcast. I mean, you are a highly decorated, 8-time best-selling author. You've spoken on TEDx. You're the founder of the Founder Collective, and so much more stuff. But we would really just be honored if you could just tell our viewers and our listeners a little bit about yourself and how you are changing the world.
Thank you so much. I think about that word being decorated. I'm like, man, I wear lots of decorations when I get dressed every day. So I'm like, how do I emulate that through a body of the statement, right? So good. But yeah, I'm so passionate about creating marketplace messengers and allowing people who have a word from God, a mission from God, a vision from the Lord to say yes to those things. And so I'm such an activator. There are so many different little one-liners that people have called me. I've been called an entrepreneurial rabbi. I love that one. I need a shirt that says that. I've been called a purpose activator, a trailblazer. I feel like since youth, I've really been up front in a lot of leadership realms, which is one of the reasons I'm so connected to what Ford and you all are doing as a mission, because it is developing leaders. And so discipleship is a huge part of that. And the Founder Collective allows for that space weekly through something we call a mobilized church. And so bringing those messengers, those trailblazers, those leaders who often find themselves isolated up front into a place where they don't any longer feel alone. They feel like they're seen and known and heard, and they're doing it in a community that gives everyone even more traction, because now we're operating as a body rather than a single entity. And so it's so much less about my mission, and it's so much more about the lens of missions and missionaries and messengers connected as one, because I think we're all doing the same thing. At least our hearts are united to do the same thing. They're just branded differently. They're called differently. But that's really a passion point of mine. And so that's what the Founder Collective was created on. That's what my publishing house is premised off of.
That's incredible. Ford, maybe share a little bit. You and I both, I think, heard Tamra speak at the same time. But Tamra, I can say this humbly. I have to kind of run interference for Ford a little bit when we go to these conferences. But you guys connected. I think you both felt there was a maybe a spiritual collaboration that was about to happen. Ford, share a little bit about meeting Tamra, and then Tamra, after you met Ford, how did you guys decide that you were running in the same direction?
Yeah. Well, as you know, PW, when we go to conferences, I kind of sit away from the door because I get pulled out a lot. People will come tap me on the shoulder and say, "Can I ask you a question?" And so I want to engage, as you know, and I want to keep learning. I don't want to just stand up and teach and go home. And so I do sit away on the other side of the door just so I don't get pulled away. And so, yeah, when Tamra spoke, we were very engaged, and, we teach this concept called bumper buddies. And when she launched her talk, she started spraying bubbles everywhere. Of course, you and I were just grinning ear to ear, and we said, okay, there's a connection here somewhere. We don't exactly know where it is. And then I don't know, Tamra, was it the next week or 2 weeks later?
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. So we never really connected at the conference because, again, we just, when you're a speaker, often you just get pulled, and I'm sure Tamra did too. And so we never really got to connect there. And I think it was the next week I was on a call with someone, a Zoom that was set up for me to speak in Washington, D.C. And when I got on there, Tamra was on there too. And we weren't supposed to be on the call at the same time. And I'll let Tamra tell what happened on that call, but it was just so funny. But go ahead, Tamra, share what
Yeah, it was such like a meet cute, unanticipated, but I had wanted to connect with Ford after hearing him speak. Like I said, I love leadership. I'm such a student of it. And I had taken copious notes when he opened the conference. And I just honestly was frozen by all of them. And I'm like, I want to get to know this person. I want to sit at his feet in a wisdom recipient role. And so when we got on the call, the person who was the liaison was late. And so I'm like, Ford, I have to tell you all of these things. And then he's like, I have to tell you about the bubbles. And so the bubble element was added within like 48 hours of me coming to speak. I had no intention of going to a business conference. I already stand out like a green thumb because of my decorations. I had like a neon green outfit on, I think. And God was like, I need you to go get bubbles. I'm like, I'm not going to the store to get bubbles. How am I going to be even taken seriously if I stand on this United States Christian Chamber of Commerce event and I'm bringing bubbles to the table? But God knew, and God used it as a connection point for me to be able to do exactly what my heart was desiring, in the sense of being able to learn. And now we're connected through not only speaking engagements and conferences. He's coming to the FounderCon in just a couple of weeks here in Virginia, and also through a relational flourishing, which I think is even more notable in our relational dynamic, because we get to do exactly what we say we want to do and put it into action every day together.
That's awesome. I think obviously I'm a little biased, so we'll call it 1 and 1A, and I'm not sure who was, but you two absolutely were the highlight of that conference. And I can tell you, our booth was a little bit out of the way, but your booth seemed to be packed every break. You had people surrounding you, so hopefully you were able to um, get what you wanted to get out of that conference in regard to exposure and ministry.
Well, what was really interesting about that, and I'll say this for everybody, whenever you go to an event, whether you're the speaker, whether you're an attendee, and for this, we were both also like partners and sponsors. And what I came to the table with was not actually what happened out of that event. And so I think it's really important for us as leaders to pause and to reflect and to hear from the Lord above all, to understand, wow, God, what did you want me to actually do with that? And did I get ahead of myself? Because all of us trailblazers are runners. We can be out in front, we can have a great idea and we'll run with it and take action on it today. But I think there's a new pace, especially that Ford has taught me, about just the rhythms of grace and the rhythm of being able to be slow to press play, and that not being a bad thing in our hype, supersonic microwave culture. So I paused after that event, because what actually came to fruition was so much less about the publishing house, which was what was drawing people in. And it was so much more about this mission with Founder Collective. And so that excited me, and it actually put some new fire to the mission behind what we were doing in the nonprofit sector of our world.
That's awesome. I think what I got out of that conference was the need. There's a lot of huge hearts and there's a lot of grandiose ideas. And I don't know what role Ford will play moving forward, and maybe what role you will play moving forward, but Ford's business acumen is unlike what I feel. I've been around a lot of spiritual leaders, but Ford's business IQ and success, I think, is greatly needed in the world of ministry and missions. Really getting intentional about strategies, word tracks, planning. Sometimes running fast is really good, but too slow down enough to have that strategy alongside of that's really beneficial.
Yeah, Ford, when would you say that you developed that? Because I know as a young buck, you were probably like, go, go, go. Like, what was the slowdown? Because that's I think the wisdom that the leaders, especially in the Founder Collective and for the conference that you're coming to, are going to want to hear.
Yeah, well, and again, I definitely want you to share more about the Founders Collective and the upcoming conference, because we want to get as many people there as we can. But and then I want us to talk a little bit about the Relational Flourishing group, because we're going to talk about that there too. But to answer your question, it was probably a year after I laid the gun down. When go, 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 got me into a suicide letter, as you know. And so it was after that. And since we're pretty stained glass on this particular podcast, God really got a hold of me in one meeting and just flipped my life upside down. But yeah, I was definitely a go person, and I still go hard. I mean, but it's still but I rest hard and I sleep hard and I pray hard. And, so I do all those things hard. And so, that's a balance there. So, but yeah, that's what happened. It was,
I see a t-shirt
I was
theme
a
coming
mess.
out of this podcast. So like rest hard, play hard, pray hard, go hard. Like let's
Yeah, and sleep hard. Yeah.
sleep hard. Definitely sleep hard.
Yeah. Well, this thing, Tamra, that we teach in the VP mostly, we call it life-work balance, as you know, instead of work-life balance. And that's what we say. If you learn to work hard, play hard, pray hard, rest hard, and sleep hard, you can be in balance. But if you're always working, or always resting, you get out of balance either way. So they both can get out.
Something the other day, Ford, on our Relational Flourishing podcast about lazy creativity. Do you remember what the word was? I think I wrote it down.
Yeah. So one of the continuums we teach in companies, we have 9 continuums, actually 10, but one of them is the lazy and workaholic.
Yes.
And in the middle is hard worker. And I had a client in Fargo. They asked me, where do you fall on this? And I put somewhere about halfway between lazy and hard worker. And they go, well, you don't come across that way. And I just said, it's in our laziness, if you want to use that word. It's in our rest that is often when we get the best ideas. That's when I tell them that for me, when I'm resting, these things that we believe that we've been given that make what most people make complicated simple, I think it comes during that lazy period, in that rest period. So yeah, that's what I was sharing on the relational
I'm
flourishing.
Can we start a lazy creativity movement? I'm there for it.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Awesome. You guys got FounderCon coming up November 5th through the 7th. Tamra, tell me a little bit about that. Tell our viewers a little bit about that, but also why should someone be at this conference?
Yeah, this is the amazing experience of bringing together faith and business at work. And there's a lot of initiatives that are doing this. But what I find as the palpable piece of why, one, people keep coming back, and two, people are intrigued is because the testimonies on the other side are talking anywhere from this was my business launch pad to I got radically healed to I now have a partnership that has now fed thousands of people across the world because of 2 people that had their own meet cute at that event, and or now they have a place to not feel alone, as I alluded to at the beginning. And so it's hard to define, which is not a good thing from a marketability perspective, but also gives such way for faith to actually be the reason that you're getting in the room. I have faith that I need a move of God, that I actually am looking to build and scale my business. We have someone coming this year, in addition to Ford, who's going to be speaking around building to exit and the importance of what that looks like at the beginning rather than it being too late for you to be able to do so. We have somebody who's coming this year who is literally speaking all around the globe at any given moment. And she has also written multiple books and has a coaching business and a mastermind. And she's been growing this brand. But we're actually going to have a behind the scenes conversation of what that looks like, because the highlight reels are no longer, I don't think, relevant. And people want to see the cut and dry understanding of what does this take. And so giving people a reality of what it looks like to be a builder, to be a Nehemiah, to actually say, I'm not coming off this wall because I'm on mission, but also to give people the strategy to do so. I know that trailblazers are already motivated. Like most leaders don't need me to tell you in my testimony for you to stay motivated, but instead they need the traction and the action and the elements of accountability. And that's what FounderCon is premised on. So we've got everything from biblical systems to baptisms, and it's amazing. And I'm so excited for more people to be able to indulge. So this is our 5th annual conference. We've had it in North Carolina, Kentucky, and Tennessee, and this is the first time it's taking place in Virginia.
That's fun. So www.thefoundercon.com.
Got it.
You can go there for information on, I'm assuming, rooms, fees,
all the things,
schedules, all good. So a quick transition. I'm going to pivot for a little bit. Ford has 3 amazing, highly successful daughters. He has an unbelievable wife. As I like to say, apples don't fall too far from the tree. Tamra, tell me about your 2, what you call kidtrepreneurs.
Yeah, kidpreneurs. I love this. Thanks for inviting them into the conversation. Yeah, so I've got Cooper, who's 12, and Waverly, who's 10. And Cooper is like blowing my mind and my husband's mind right now. He has been into the 3D printing world for about a year and a half, 2 years. He started printing and selling. And after he realized that he had not enough time for the printers to work to the output that he was creating, he's like $6,000 into a business, and he's doing literally person-to-person sales by walking the ocean front, which is right near where we live. And it's literally just 1 hour a day, making like $380 an hour. I'm like, we need to learn from this. And ultimately, it's relational skills, which is why relational flourishing is so powerful. He's learning to make eye contact with people. He's learning to get down on one knee to interact with the kids. He's learning that if I hold the 3D print instead of just keep them inside of this kit and I actually hand it to them, that now there's an interaction, there's an experience, there's an intimacy with it. So it's really neat. I am so passionate about instilling in my kids the things that we have learned the hard knock way as adults and giving it to them early. And my daughter's no different. She's like got a watering flower business that she's doing for the neighbors, and she's a chef. And so how do you put those things into play from a service-based versus a product-based business? Our conversations around our dinner table are about real estate and money and taxes and things that most kids at 10 and 12 are not talking about. But it excites me to no end. And I know in the future, we're going to create a kidpreneur or a youthpreneur retreat that we're excited to invite families in to experience that.
Oh, that's awesome. I've always said I thought Ford has so much extra time on his hands.
Yeah.
I would absolutely love, I don't know what the starting age is, Tamra, but to introduce some of the TL principles. My daughter met Ford when she was a freshman in college.
Okay.
Immediately started to pick up the language and immediately started to pick up on some of the techniques and some of the strategies with TL. And I can tell you with no uncertainty that really helped her navigate college life.
Yeah.
And she was a Division I college softball player, and all of the nuances that go with girls and being away from home and sexuality. And well, if you ever had a daughter in college and when you go meet her friends and they tell you that your daughter's nickname is Grandma, really big compliment.
Win. That's a win.
That's a huge win, but that's all by just meeting Ford and getting to experience him. Because as Paul, taught us in Romans 12, open up your home. When I first met Ford, we knew each other, but the first time that he came to film his content, I made sure that he stayed in our home, and our friendship and families have been connected ever since, I would say.
Absolutely. Now, Tamra, one thing I want you to do is share a little bit about what you're actually launching at the conference this year with the. I'm excited about that.
Yeah. So Ford will also get to teach some of his TL stuff inside of what is called the Founder Academy. We are about to go through a brand name change. So if you hear this later, then make sure you still check out all the things that we're doing, because it's going to have this new energy behind it. And the intention is to be able to equip and disciple, as I mentioned earlier, but to actually do the training of these leaders who want to be missionaries, want to be mission-driven leaders, want to be messengers, people like digital evangelists who have this great platform, but they don't understand business necessarily, or pastors who have an incredible community and yet they don't understand business, or businesses and entrepreneurs who don't understand, how do I take biblical principle and apply it here, because it's always been this separation of church and state. So it's a multifaceted academy that's going to be taking place, and we have educators from so many different sectors, which is where Ford comes into play, who are going to come in and teach both live and recorded sessions. And at the end of their experience, which there will be obviously an invitation to keep and hang out with us more as more content gets released, they're going to have an opportunity to be ordained and then sustained through the certification of what our academy is going to be doing. So it's a leverage point for people to be ordained. It's a leverage point for people to understand business in a way that they've never been given, because biblical business, and I went to college on business, and I know it, being an entrepreneur, I learned way more than I did going to business school. And so this isn't going to be like that. It's going to be more of a hands-on launch pad.
Good stuff. Ford, your topic at FounderCon, can you share a little bit? Can you tease us a little bit of what you're going to be talking about at the event?
I'm still waiting for Tamra to tell me.
He's just gonna do what I say, you guys. Come on. No, we're gonna go through. We talked about the VP MOSA. He actually was a part of the virtual conference last year, and he released that information, which I think is so pivotal, and also the social covenant. And that's going to be such a critical piece for people to understand the language that they need to be implementing and the actions connected to it. So that's the piece that I want people to put together. We can read a book all day, but for when your social covenant and VP MOSA come together, it's really powerful because they're walking in integrity. They're walking in generosity. They're walking in stewardship. And these three, just through those three, we could talk about 1,000 more, relationship being a part of those. That's literally the premise of the Founder Academy, and also how people will flourish ultimately.
Yeah, and PW, I was just kidding with Tamra. She had told me that. I just wanted to hear her say it. Yeah.
As we wrap up, Tamra, if you would, someone that has had zero exposure to you as a person, who are maybe they have an entrepreneurial spirit. Can you give them, just from your experience, one or two things to just keep them motivated to reach for everything that they're trying to get to?
Yeah, I think the word alignment just keeps coming to my spirit, because I, similar to Ford in his testimony that he shared earlier, had been in that rock bottom, which I like to call rock foundation, which is part of the founder name. That foundational point where people find themselves often, you have two options. You can stay there or you can stand. And the stand part only happens when you have faith to keep moving, when you have hope to keep moving, when you feel loved enough to be recognized for who you are and what God wants to do in your life uniquely. And so alignment requires that mind, that body, and that spirit integration. And so if there is anybody here listening who feels like lethargic towards whether it's the thing that they're learning or the time intention of their days and their schedules, or it's their bodies are exhausted, we talked about sleep already, or their relationships are diminished, specifically in their home, man, there's so much that can be done before you actually go run out to the world. Your first ministry being home, and your first ministry being a part of who God created you individually. Like, learn to love yourself. When you love yourself, it's so much easier to love others. And God teaches us how to do that because he loved us first.
That's awesome. Ford, as always, I'm going to allow you to land the plane. Tamra, thank you for joining us. Lots of information. Hopefully we can get these links embedded in our podcast. You can find more about Tamra at thefoundercollective.org. FounderCon, November 5th and 7th in Virginia, www.thefoundercon.com. Ford, take us out of here, brother.
Yeah, and I do hope to see a lot of our tribe, our listeners at the FounderCon, and come in early for the cruise the night before. It's you don't want to miss that either. Tamra and I are working with a group of people also. I'm just going to touch on this, that we call the Relational Flourishing group, and the tagline is Kingdom Over Competition. We're all trying to have as much positive influence on relational flourishing as a group. Now, the world may consider most of us as competitors with one another, but we don't see it that way. We see that there's billions of people out there, and none of us can get to all of them, and we all have a different part, and we play a little, and we're actually going to talk about that at Founders Con too. So if you're struggling with the church and the lack of unity, come to this event, and I think you'll see something around that maybe you've not seen before, even by business people who, again, in the world's eyes, might be seen as competitors. But PW, as you said earlier in the podcast, we don't bring just everybody on our podcast. But Tamra, there's one thing that I have learned about you, is you do understand unconditional love and unconditional forgiveness. I've seen you walk it out. specifically in the last few months and in my whole time of knowing you. And, that is the name of this podcast, is Let's Get Lit. It stands for love, influence, transform. And so, Tamra, when we find people like you who walk that out, we want to be in relationship. We want you to be on the podcast. We want people to know who you are. So, again, to our listeners, if you've heard Tamra, you've heard another person who understands this. And just don't forget, we all have influence. You might as well make it a positive one. And just remember to always love, influence, transform.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Ford Taylor Talks. For more information and resources to help you love, influence, and transform, please visit FordTaylorTalks.com.